So welcome back and thank you for joining us. Today we're diving into a topic that's shaping the financial landscape, not just globally, but also here in Africa. We are going to be talking about, unlocking Africa's crypto potential, specifically how institutional adoption, tokenization, and crypto ETFs may act as catalysts for real growth on the continent. Joining me today is Callan Richardson from Bitget. Callan, it is so great to have you back on. How are you doing today?
Yeah, Francois, great to be back. I know it's been a while, but always look forward to these sessions. And thanks again for inviting me, and hopefully we can share a bit of insights.
Zero commission on stocks? Yeah, nothing. What if you could get this value today? Turns out you can. Join ATFX now and let's get you started.
Absolutely fantastic. Callan, I think let's just jump straight in today. And let's start off with institutional side. We just had a bit of a conversation about the event that we are both attending on Friday, you speaking at the event. And as you said, everything is structured around institutions at this event. So, we've seen growing interest from banks. I mean, recently Absa got listed as a XRP, a custodian. We've also seen interest from hedge funds, asset managers, but more in the global market and not so much here in Africa. But Africa's growth curve looks different. So from your perspective, what are the key barriers currently preventing institutional players in Africa from scaling into the crypto market? And which of those barriers do you believe are the easiest to solve in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so great question. I think as you touched on, we've got Crypto Fest on Friday, which is a great event. And like we discussed earlier, I think if you just look at the evolving nature of that event from being a typical crypto type of event over the last few years to really being an institutional focus, it really shows how the market has adapted, and really good to see institutions coming on board in South Africa. Crypto potential in Africa or South Africa, it's a lot to unpack. I would probably say, where are we with crypto adoption at the moment? And I think South Africa is poised at the right position at the right time now. We've got, like you mentioned, Absa has just launched their digital custody, which my whole financial background comes from a custody background. And like I always say, custody is literally your foundation before anything else can get built. So having that in South Africa and having Absa roll that out is a great barrier to entry. Once you've got a regulated bank offering digital asset custody, it just gives that sense of credibility to the actual industry. And once you've got that base layer of custody, you can then build on from there. So like you mentioned, ETFs, tokenization, holding crypto assets, corporates, institutions getting involved. You've got a regulated custodian. It's a bank, probably one of the top 5 in South Africa. And now your assets are safe. But I think also the evolving nature of the custody business. We've seen this globally rolled out with Standard Chartered, JP Morgan, and Citibank, all global legacy, typical custodian type of banks, all having a custody product. They've all now rolled out digital assets custody, and they've rolled out trading desks as well. So, you kind of seen this merging of TradFi and DeFi, and there eventually is going to be a blurred line of where they actually join. So, your traditional banks and exchanges are going to be pretty much offering the same type of products, the same type of product suites. And I think that's the first barrier. So once you've taken that barrier out, you've then got to look at the regulatory landscape. And I think in South Africa, again, the regulator is quite open to working with exchanges, working with crypto partners here to advance the state of crypto assets in South Africa. Is it fast enough? Is it not fast enough? That's up to the regulator and how they see it. But there's still a lot of work to be done. I think you also need that regulatory framework in place before you can launch the likes of the ETFs and those other type of retail products that traditional investors are used to investing in. So the barriers are still there. They are being looked at, and like I said, it's great to see ABSA coming with the digital custody. I think that's a barrier to entry that's already been broken down, and it can only evolve from there. So hopefully that unpacks a little bit of it. I'm sure there'll be a lot of different answers at Crypto Fest. So it might be good to catch up after that and just break it down again and see what the actual industry leaders say about this topic.
100%. We are going to catch up at Crypto Fest. And, you mentioned tokenization. And I know this is something myself and you have been talking a lot about recently and in our previous discussions as well. And I mean, tokenization is being positioned as the next evolution of capital markets. Everything from real estate to treasury, and all of this can be bought on chain using tokenization. Now, in an African context where traditional financial infrastructure is still developing, do you see tokenization acting as a leapfrog technology? And which real-world assets do you believe are best suited to be tokenized first on the continent?
Yeah, so tokenization is something I get really excited about. Like I said, coming from a traditional background, I've been involved in your typical securities, stocks, shares, bonds, FX, all these type of products. So to see tokenization taking off and being what we could call an entry for traditional financial investors to actually move onto blockchain and look at on-chain assets. So it's kind of again that blending of traditional finance and the DeFi or the blockchain technology. So where we see going back to your question about what are your typical assets. So the easiest and what we've seen lately, and I think most exchanges now in South Africa are offering it, are the tokenized stocks, which is a great entry point for retail investors. So you look at Ondo and guys like X stocks, they've taken US stocks and they've tokenized those, and then they've placed them on chain. So coming onto an exchange like Bitget, you can literally go and you can buy crypto and you can actually buy US stocks as well. I think if you're looking at barriers to entry and adoption, it's a great opportunity because, not a lot of people have $150 or $200 or depending on what stock they're interested in. But, the younger generation are looking to buy or invest in stocks that they actually, deal with on a day-to-day basis. Meta, Apple, Nvidia, all the top stocks that you hear, Microsoft, Google, people want to be involved with products that they actually know of. So, coming onto a crypto exchange now and taking $50 or $20 actually gives you access and allows you to sit at the table and actually invest in those type of products. So you take that on-chain technology and you can kind of fractionalize those shares. So instead of buying one Apple share, one Google share, your barrier to entry is now being reduced dramatically. So you can take Bitget offers a $5 minimum. So you can take $5 and you can buy an Apple share, you can buy a Google share. So the tokenization part is really breaking down those barriers and introducing traditional investors, retail investors onto blockchain and what it actually offers. So I think there's a lot of other products that will eventually be tokenized. You've obviously got ETFs that are tokenized. We've seen in Dubai where they've tokenized property and you can buy a villa, starting at 10,000 dirhams. So kind of getting into a retail investment opportunity as well. If you can't afford real estate, it's a great option. Is it going to work in Africa? Yeah, I'm sure it will at some stage. Again, it's just the regulatory aspect around it, what that looks like. And the real reason we ask ourselves is why tokenize the asset and what is the actual benefit to tokenizing that asset? So there's a lot of different answers around there. I think you could spend a lot of time on it, but traditional trading, you buy a share on an exchange, you've got to find a broker, you've got to deposit money, there's a share certificate that's actually issued, that's got to be registered at the actual exchange. You've got to have a custodian that holds that on behalf of the broker. So there's a lot of barriers, and it is a very, very, old school process that's been around for generations. Nothing's really changed on that side of it. I think the most exciting thing in the traditional world is your settlement process. Some markets used to be T+5, then it went to T+3, then T+2, T+1. So those are kind of the advancements and developments. So to see this coming on chain and being able to trade 24/7 or 25/7, depending on the actual product, anytime, any day, and not having all those other issues in the background, makes it really appealing to the younger generation.
Absolutely fantastic. And, a lot of the things you mentioned are things that people don't even really realize in the back end when they are trading some of these assets, that, some of the progressions that these are making. And as you're saying, in the crypto space, progression is running and tokenization and so forth, it's running a lot faster than in the traditional finance space.
Super tight spreads. Yeah, tighter than your jeans after Christmas lunch. What if you could get this value today? Turns out you can. Join ATFX now and let's get you started.
Now, in the traditional finance space, ETFs globally has participated or assisted a lot recently with adding layers of legitimacy and opening doors to new participants specifically for crypto. But now my question is, in Africa specifically, do you think ETFs will have a meaningful influence on adoption or in the continent's growth story if we actually get that activated within South Africa? And, still more driven by, we have an infrastructure that's more driven by utilities and payments using cases rather than in normal investment products. I mean, people are still focusing on stock files and not really ETFs or any other investment profile. So how do you see that progressing within the African continent?
Yeah, I think if we take South Africa in particular, I think if you want to get ETFs up and running, you've obviously got to look at the regulatory framework. And again, this is where the conversation becomes really exciting. Go back to the ABSA case. You've now got regulated custody. We now need the regulator, obviously, to look at it and look at the adoption by asset managers. I'm sure there's a number of them that are out there. We've seen one or two recently offer the iShares Bitcoin fund. They've offered that locally as a wrapper, and that you can see they're testing the waters. So it's nice to see some of the asset managers actually adopting that. What better way would it be to attract new investors into crypto and digital assets by making a crypto ETF available? It's going to be held with a regulated custodian. It's going to be offered by a regulated asset manager, and depending on the risk appetite. So traditional investors have a bunch of funds to choose from, mutual funds, and if you look at if you look at South Africa, there's mutual funds and CIS funds. Coming. I think we've got enough of those. I think there's more of those funds in South Africa than anywhere else, unit trusts and CIS funds. And there's just thousands of them. So, you obviously want to offer something that differentiates itself. And, there is enough appetite out there. So I think if you are trying to grow the market, an ETF is a great way to do it. And like I said, it's basically because you've got a well-structured, regulated product that's now being offered. So kind of takes away the issues that crypto and digital assets have faced in the background and in the past. Is it secure? Is my investment going to be there next week? It's sitting in a well-regulated environment. So I think if you're going to attract new investors and grow the market, it's a great way to get people involved without having to do all the necessary investigations themselves. Looking at a broker or an exchange, or looking how to be able to trade that themselves. So we've seen it globally. There's a number of crypto ETFs that have been launched, and they seem to be successful. And then again, going back to that tokenization story, we saw last week Larry Fink from BlackRock came out and basically said he thinks every single fund that's available in the market today should at some stage be tokenized, and he sees that's the future. That's BlackRock, your largest asset manager in the world, is coming out saying that, and that's backed by the CEO of the business. If they see it as an option, and they see it as attractive, I think they've got a lot more years under their belt than I have, and they've got a lot smarter people in BlackRock than I've got here. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And will it be South Africa that offers the first regulated ETF on the continent? We'll have to see. So we're doing our bit as well. We obviously talking to the institutional players in South Africa. We're talking to asset managers. We're talking to brokers. We're talking to banks. And we're obviously looking at that road, what it looks like, what that journey looks like, and how we can bring that to market. So there's ongoing discussions. There's a lot of appetite out there, and I think you're going to see, you're going to see a lot of change in this space in the next year or two.
I love hearing that, and I know, from the conversations myself and you have had both online and offline, Bitget specifically has grown and scaled across Africa in a very, very short time. And, you guys are doing some amazing things, as you just stated yourself. And my question is, this approach cannot be generic. You guys are not doing what everyone else is doing. And I have seen where you guys are offering a lot more. So, from your side, what does authentic local integration as a crypto exchange look like? Is it education? Is it compliance? Is it liquidity? Is it infrastructure and support? Is it a combination of all of them? What models have proven most effective for you?
Yeah, so from a Bitget point of view, working for a global player, you do get a lot of insights from other markets such as Latin America and Europe, and anything that's developed in those markets we roll out globally and across Africa especially. So a lot of the products and what we are doing is tried and tested in some very, very developed markets, including Asia. We get a lot of feedback from Asian partners and the clients that we service there. So, last month we actually launched Bitget, and we've done a huge drive around this as not being a crypto exchange. We're actually calling ourselves a universal exchange now. So when you're saying, what do we offer, and, how does that look locally? Crypto is getting to a stage now where there's only so much you can actually offer, and there's a lot of competition in that market. So you've got to diversify and offer something different. So being a universal exchange, we don't just offer crypto. We now offer the tokenized stocks. We offer gold trading on there. There's a number of other products coming out before the end of the year, so we'll make you aware of those. I'm not going to spoil it just yet, but there's ETFs on there as well. We've got investment products, we've got earn products, we've got wealth products. We've discussed our Bitget credit card before as well. So, we're not just a crypto exchange anymore. We obviously have to try and be a one-stop solution for our clients. And when we look at integration, we look at banks, we look at asset managers, we look to see what we can offer them to take to their underlying users. So a large part of our business is institutional adoption, and we've got a number of API products that we roll out to banks and to asset managers, so they can literally plug into our API technology, and they can offer their users direct access to the crypto world, to tokenized assets, to a number of these different products that we offer globally. And, coming from an asset manager in South Africa who offers that, or a bank who offers that, again, it comes with the credibility. They've done KYC, they've done the checks on us, they've done the due diligence, they've done RFPs, which go for months and months to make sure that they're offering a regulated product that's going to service their users, that's safe and secure. I mentioned it before, Bitget's got a proof of reserve fund that sits on the website, and that's updated every 5 days. And it's almost a one-to-one asset. When these type of products are rolled out by a bank or an asset manager, your underlying user has peace of mind, but also there's no issues there with regards to, like, what am I trading on? Who am I trading with? They would look at it as a bank or the asset manager. We sit in the background and service and provide the technology and liquidity to that client, in order for their underlying users to have access to all of these products without having to worry about, what the exchange is, or is my money going to be safe? Because, like I said, we work directly with the bank or the asset manager to answer all those questions, to make sure that the liquidity is there, and the accounts are secure and safe. And again, we've got our back end technology, we've got our crypto partners, we've got, OTC desks for the larger institutional clients, we've got international grade custody in the background there as well. So, this is a type of adoption we're bringing to the SA market and to Africa. So it's an exciting time, it's an exciting space. I think we've got a lot of really innovative products to offer clients on the ground in South Africa, which would then be rolled out to their underlying users. So again, like I say, watch the space, and I think the next year or so is going to be really, really exciting.
I love it. And I must say, I love the word universal exchange. I mean, up until this point, it's either been stock exchange or crypto exchange. So universal exchange is definitely a new one, and definitely something that I think we all need to take a bit of note of. But with that being said, Callan, thank you for your insights. This has been an incredibly valuable discussion. It's clear that Africa has potential not just to adopt crypto technologies, but to help lead in how they're implemented and integrated into, well, real economies. Okay. To everyone watching, if you found this discussion helpful, be sure to share, subscribe, and, well, let us know what you want us to discuss during our next session. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me today. And then traders, until next time, stay sharp, stay focused, and, well, trade smart.